Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel are now learning in the real world, the hard way, that there's a reason we have levels of security clearance. I'm sure the intent of Ms. Bondi and Mr. Patel was to do the right thing by the American people, but once they have gotten read in on the real deal of the Epstein files, they know they are trapped. There's nothing they can do. There's absolutely no way they can release the information wanted by the American people in that file. Because as they have now stated, they have moved the goalposts. Remember, they were going to redact information based on protecting the identities of the victims? Well, now that's changed. Now it's a matter of national security. And I would like most of my audience to sit back for a moment, perhaps go get a frosty cold beverage or something and maybe a snack, and sit and just think for a minute. Put the phone down, put the device down, shut everything off and think, what could possibly be in the Epstein files that would present any type of a risk or threat to national security now? Who could possibly be attached to or somehow tangentially associated with the information found that would present an untenable threat to national security? Those of you not familiar with the term moving goalposts, it's one of the 24 cognitive biases and 24 logical fallacies that we talk about over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. The definition here: demanding from an opponent that he or she address more and more points after the initial counter-argument has been satisfied, refusing to concede or accept the opponent's argument. Basically just changing the standard. They have changed the standard. And there's no way now anyone with any type of a rational mind can not see what is really in the Epstein files. That would be a problem for national security. Now, as always, I want to lead off with gratitude before I forget, 2.5 minutes in. Thank you to everyone joining us, Florida Maquis Patreon channel. Next video we're going to have up over there. It's been a while, I know. We've got a couple of brand new ones over there. They're only about a week old, but every week or so we like to get something brand new up. Next level up. Last two have been for everybody. This one's going to be Need to Know Roundtable. Unit commanders, brigade commanders, as always, you are welcome to sit in. And believe me, it's going to be on a topic that is going to be a little bit touchy. Now, as always, thank you to everyone who's continued to join us over there. I very, very much appreciate it. There's 4 levels, 2, 5, 10, and 15. And we have names associated with each level, whatever you're comfortable with. There's hundreds of videos going back many, many, many years. Content never before seen on YouTube. And once again, as always, the policy: fully refundable. First 90 days, no questions asked. Go kick the tires. Go see. It's the beginning of March now, right? So March, you have March into April, April to May, May to, want to be June? My gosh, it'd be June already before you would have to make up your mind and risk losing anything as low as $2. Just as a hint, how many of you have maybe been a little bit, I don't know, made to feel uncomfortable by this channel talking about all the OnlyFans stuff? Well, guess what? The largest donor, largest single donor to AIPAC was Leonid Radvinsky, the owner of OnlyFans. Isn't that interesting? Right when they needed the money, right when they really had a need for the money, right after. Isn't that interesting? That millions, tens of millions of dollars comes from a Ukrainian pornographic website owner. Can't talk about that here, though. Can't talk about that here. Love to have you, Patreon. God bless all of you who have signed up. Thank you so much. I very, very much appreciate it. But let's get right to it. I'm going to leave this here for a minute so people can soak it up. How many of you recognize the very young man sitting, listening to Jeffrey Epstein speak? Yep, that's right. RFK Jr. who all of a sudden now thinks the greatest threat to the health of the nation is anti-Semitism. Out of all the things that he talked about getting American healthy, I don't ever remember him once during the campaign anyway, talking about his first order of business, making America psychologically healthy and getting them on the right train when it comes to that issue. But I've shown this picture before, and it bothers a lot of people because they didn't ask the question. Nobody asks questions these days. Nobody sits down and rationally says, wait a minute. Does this make logical sense that this would be the case if this is what I'm being told? You see, these girls that were allegedly the hundreds and hundreds of victims, even though legally there's only been established by fact about 40, 50. Why did they go back? Why did they go back multiple times? You see, the answer is not something a lot of people want to admit to themselves, but the rest of the world understands it. What if I told you that America was suffering under a delusion right now? You see, I show this picture to a lot of people, and they say, oh, those poor children. Those poor children, you see. Yeah. This is Europe, our closest ally. And you see all these numbers? These are ages of consent. Ages of consent in France, Italy, Portugal, all these places, and I'm sure this is probably bothering a lot of people. 14. You see, through most of Europe and most of Asia and most of South America, it isn't 18. That number that I showed you before was from 2018. This is what it is now. It's moved up incrementally a little bit, but it's still mostly 14, 15, and 16 years old are recognized as consenting adults. And once again, I'm not just talking about a few countries. I'm talking about most of the world. Most of the world sees, like Argentina, 13, Uruguay, 13, Brazil, 15, Philippines, 12, Japan, 13. Now, you can believe whatever you want about American exceptionalism. This is a list of Latin American ages: Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, 14. They have some exceptions, but not many. Usually it's a case-by-case basis. 13, 14, 15. Only Venezuela pushing it out to 16. You see, we are the ones that are hung up on this. We are the ones who are hung up on this. And this is the part of the story that's going to bother you probably the most. You see, the man is gone and has been gone and dead since 2019. But in November 2023, federal judge approved nearly $300 million for all of these alleged quote-unquote victims that traveled to that island. $300 million on top of another $75 million from Deutsche Bank. So now we're up to $365 million, completely irrespective of the individual settlements that all of these girls had already settled out of court with Epstein for even more tens of thousands of dollars on top of that. See, that's what not a lot of people are getting. What not a lot of people are getting is that these girls cleaned up. And if you're all fired up, excited about the idea of the sweetheart deal that Epstein got the first time somebody brought this up in Florida, it was Trump Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta that got the sweetheart deal for Epstein that kept him in a very, 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 very lax, what you would call prison-ish situation when he got convicted of this, having settled all of these lawsuits. And everything they charged him with was just solicitation of prostitution. Nowhere in there was the pedo word used in any of the charges. It was solicitation of prostitution. That's what the charge was. Read the details. Go back and refresh yourself on the actual details of what really happened, and it bears no resemblance to what's being talked about now. It bears absolutely no resemblance whatsoever. What really happened versus what's being talked about now. And if you really want to dig all the way down to the bottom of this barrel, you'll wonder, well, God, a thinking person would say, well, gosh, if this had all been settled out of court and monies had been handed out and, the man had gone in and out of jail and then he was arrested and then he died and that was years ago, who really benefits from digging all this up? Who really benefits from digging all of this up? See, one of the big pushers on this, especially on X, Twitter, is Laura Loomer. And people think that there's some hidden list of people that, you see, it's not so much about any hidden list. It's about the connections. It's about the connections. And unfortunately, Ms. Bondi and Mr. Patel probably were laboring under the delusion that they had already achieved the highest level of security clearance as possible to see things. And now that they're in these positions, much like Amy Coney Barrett, and are in a position to see things at a much, much, much higher level of clearance, they're probably stocking up on Pepto because they're in a bind right now. They're in a bind because it's got to be queasy for them to realize, oh crap, how do I extricate myself from this now? I'm always going to be known as, you see, just like Alexander Acosta. See, he's always going to be known as. Always going to be known as. And that's where we head back to Patreon, where it all ties in and it all leads back to one place. And folks, this is dicing on the edge right now with what you can say on YouTube and not run afoul. So once again, next, I'd say probably 48 hours, we're going to have a brand new video up over there at the Patreon channel, $5 level. I got to be careful over there too. It's not like a complete free-for-all. But believe me, the things that we will reveal over there at the next video we put up, next 48 hours, going to be things you want to see. Because you would have to have kept the receipts and paid attention at the time to remember what to look for. There was a whole part of that story that everybody missed. So I will leave it there. God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. See you guys next time.